Well, greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to, depending on wherever you may live, or however you decide to look at your clock, this early morning or middle of the night bonus. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost you a cent. Click the like button. Takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely are appreciated, and they do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into this middle of the night or early morning bonus upload. Shall we?
Today's first experience on the paranormal side. So I currently work in a bunker. It's not top secret, but I'm going to leave some details out for O-spec reasons. I'm a 2111 armorer. I fix and maintain guns, but a big part of my job is also security and making sure that things do not get stolen. One of the many rules we have to make sure that doesn't happen is a two-man rule, which is for a bunch of reasons. The big one is because of the suicide rate in my MOS. But the two-man rule is exactly what it sounds like. Make sure there's always two people in the armory at all times. Well, I don't know if I'd be telling you this story if we had followed it. This wasn't the first or the last incident, but definitely made me believe there was something in that bunker. So I was opening up at 02:30, like usual, to issue the Marines and go to sleep for the rest period, then switch off with my sergeant, who was there with me. Well, he decided he wanted to go to the gym at around 0300, so he came into the lounge, where I was getting ready to pass out on the couch, and asked me if I would be cool by myself and that he would be back in an hour or so. I said something along the lines of, "I'll just lock the door behind you and load up an M9. He left and I fell asleep. I woke up because someone grabbed my boot and shook it, waking me up. And when I opened my eyes, there was no one there. I checked my phone and it had only been about 15 minutes since my sergeant left. The door was locked, so I thought it was my imagination. Because I'm a bit of a scaredy cat. Anyway, I was about ready to fall back to sleep when I heard this loud crashing noise coming from where we keep the rifles. I jump up, draw my weapon, because I am sleeping under the escape hatch, which is locked from the inside, and the only keys to the main door are on my belt loop. I walk toward the room the sound came from, and when I get to the door I announce, "If someone's in there, you better speak up now, because I am jumpy and I will shoot first and ask questions later." I gave it a second, then said, "Last chance." Then I started checking the rows of guns, and I saw about 50 to 60 something guns were all thrown down from the racks. So now I'm confused and on high alert, and then I hear a man screaming in anger, so I continue clearing the area and find nothing at that point. I holster my weapon, and I got out of there. I sat at the top, smoking some cigarettes and watching the top doors in the escape hatch for even the slightest movement, waiting for my sergeant. When he showed up, I told him what had happened, and he just said, "Yeah, we all have sleep paralysis whenever we sleep down here, and it's the same for all of us. Surprised no one told you." And since that day, I've had the same experience they do when I sleep down there. and it's a pale, gaunt, hunched-over thing staring at me with beady black eyes and smiling with sharp teeth. I now have insomnia, and the only place I can fall asleep is at work, with that thing there. I would have gone to a psych evaluation if I was the only one, so I know I'm not crazy, and I can't really stop going to work or I'll go to the brig. Luckily, I get out of the military this year. Today's second experience on the paranormal side. In November of 2014, one of my good friends and I were taking a hike through overgrown woods about a quarter of a mile away from my house. It was about 10 p.m., so we relied heavily on flashlights. As we were walking through the thicket of brush, I had a weird feeling in my stomach. Not that I was in any harm's way, nor feeling like I was being watched. Something in my mind just clicked and said, "Look up now." When I looked up, I saw a pair of eyes, just white eyes, or at least that was the reflection of my friend's weak flashlight. So I looked at him and told him to stop and look at this with me. I had borrowed a very high-powered flashlight from my dad when I would walk with people at night, so instinctively I turned the light on and shined it in the general direction of the eyes. What I saw was very interesting. It was very similar in appearance to a pit bull, but much larger with no fur. When my light hit it, its eyes turned to a more greenish-yellow color. It snarled at us without growling, and my friend and I took a few steps back. After this, it silently turned around and walked away. My friend was convinced that somebody had lost a dog, but I kept telling him that was no dog. A better description. Think of a dog similar in features but cropped ears, kind of like a pit bull maybe. This thing was double the size. It had no fur, just matte gray skin, which looked very veiny. This thing had very impressive muscle mass, had a black nose, and of course yellow eyes. I have ruled out a lot of possibilities, mange, hellhound, etc. Just wondering if anyone knows what this could have been. Today's third experience on the paranormal side. Man, I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but the elevator game is definitely a freaky game. I don't think I'd ever play that game. One, because my daughter is afraid of elevators and I can't go anywhere without her not attached to my hip. And two, because of what went down a couple of years ago. And I'm sure everyone is familiar with the Elisa Lam story at the Cecil Hotel. Now, she wasn't playing the elevator game, but she was on an elevator the last time she was seen alive, and she was acting very weird. And then, mysteriously, she was found in the water storage tank on the roof, and no one can explain why or how she got there. But every time I think of the elevator game, I think of that poor woman, and if you see the video clips, for those of you who haven't, I'm assuming a lot of you have, it is very, very creepy because it's almost like something is there and she's trying to hide from it or run away from it. But anyway, that's enough of that. Let's get into this experience. I've recently been reading a lot about online rituals and such, the Three Kings, the elevator game. Now, I'm a fairly spiritual person. I know about channeling. I wear crystals and gems. I know about the paranormal, but I do not actively seek it out. Mostly open-minded, positive person. I meditate. I don't drink or do drugs. I was working as a slot attendant at this time, from 4 p.m. till 12 a.m. One day going to work, I stepped out of my main door of my apartment complex to my car. Immediately on the sidewalk leading out the door, there was a chalk drawing of hopscotch squares with numbers, but the interesting thing was, the numbers were from the elevator game ritual, and at the top of the hopscotch square was a stick figure trying to get a star. I'm thinking, okay, interesting, but I'm not afraid. Then at work, I have to carry a radio and keys to help people with jammed tickets and money. I was in the middle of the casino when I got a call from one of the security guards to come to a slot machine by the cashier window. I acknowledge and make my way towards them. While at the machine, which was a multi-game touchscreen where you can select different games, the customer had a ticket jammed, which was an easy fix. On the screen was a game called Three Kings. I laughed to myself, but I knew something was up. Then at home while sleeping, I was visited by 3 witches that came out of my top bed frame. 2 of them sat by my lower left bed, while the third sat on my chest and bounced up and down. Then outside of my window I would see shadows move about. It was around May 2019, and I thought, it's only the spring breeze, but what made it bizarre was the blowing wind on top of my window, but the sound was that of a male spirit. It was a protecting energy. This was after the 3 witches visited me. It made a woo-woo sound. It lasted for 3 months, and I realized it was protecting my apartment, as I asked for protection from my spirit family. Then another time at work, I was by the blackjack table, and my radio did a static noise. It was a weird noise. There were people close and such, but I got weirded out by it. I asked another slot attendant who was close by if he heard the weird static noise. He said no. After a bit, I decided to take a break, and I decided to go to the men's locker room as the break room was full. The locker room itself is small. You walk in, there's a wall. You have to walk left, then there's a big locker. You put your dirty uniform on. Then you have to turn right, and there are lockers and a small bench. In the back is a bathroom. That's it. So, while I was on the bench on my phone facing the front way, I heard that weird static noise on my radio. Then I felt a girl's spirit in the bathroom, like she got teleported there. She didn't seem friendly. I got up with the quickness and bolted out of the locker room. There are a few more creepy things that happened, but I wanted to share these first. Today's 4th experience on the paranormal side. We rented an old farmhouse from August of 2019 to 2020. Weird things happened there. I don't want to make this super long or anything. One night my fiance and I heard 2 super loud bangs at the door. It was late, nobody was there, and the security lights outside didn't turn on either. One evening I was out in front of the house playing with our new puppy and trying to teach him drop it command. I kept saying drop it in a cutesy voice, and then a woman's voice repeated drop it from behind me in a stern voice. We didn't have any neighbors. It was just my dog and I outside, so I picked him up and ran into the house. The biggest incident was when I was alone in the house with my dog. I was coming out of the bathroom and I saw a teenage boy in a gray hoodie standing at the bottom of the staircase, leaning his head over as if to look at me. And then he stood up straight again and vanished. Scared, I ran to the front door, called my dog to join me. And as I was unlocking the door, my dog started growling. I turned around and he was staring right where I saw the boy, growling at nothing. It was the first time in his whole life he had done that. I took him outside with me, and we waited for my husband to get home from work. I was too afraid to go back inside. Anyway, fast forward to now, we live in a different house in a lovely area. We also have a newborn baby. Anywho, I keep walking into rooms and seeing smoke or a gray fog in the room. My mom sees it as well, but my husband never does. I also get demonic dreams, and I heard a clock ticking in the bedroom. There's no clock in there. Cats come crying outside our front door. I wake to smell of smoke or something burning. We had the house checked for electrical faults and etc. Everything's fine. I've had dreams of demons telling me they're going to torment me. I also had a dream my husband and I were driving, and the name Ingrok got scratched all over our car, and a demon burned my husband. and I was standing in one of the spare rooms looking at a pile of our books, and a voice told me to throw out the Stephen King books to get rid of this thing in the house. I listened and got rid of them, but might be some left in an old box somewhere. Today's fifth experience on the paranormal side. Hello, in 1979 I was 8 years old and moved home. I lived there for 10 years with my parents and younger sister from a really rough inner city area with terraced houses, cobbled streets, to a much more rural area of the country with fields and cows, etc. It was a detached house with a sport field and a farmland at the back of the house. One of the things I can remember about the house is at night I used to hear heavy breathing right next to my ear when I was lying in bed. I never told anyone about it. I know it wasn't my imagination because one night my younger sister, who slept in a different room, was shouting out for my dad, telling him she could hear heavy breathing right next to her ear. Sometimes I used to lie there thinking at night and not heard that heavy breathing for some time. Then, almost as if reading my thoughts, the heavy breathing would come back within seconds right next to my ear. I got given a puppy, and one evening she was barking up at the ceiling in the corner. It was strange behavior, as if she could see something or hear something upstairs. Everyone was downstairs. I think it was beings coming in and out from a portal. Another time, one evening, it might have been winter, we all heard a loud thud coming from upstairs, and something heavily walking around the corner of my parents' bedroom. Everyone was downstairs, including the dog. At night, you could sometimes hear a strange collective whispering noise. After a couple of years of living in the house, my relationship with my parents became mentally and physically abusive, to the point where they were being violent against me. This was a part of the demonic plan, I think. I think my family was being targeted by other people, probably Satanists, people who had befriended my mother back then, who I've later worked out with were not good people. The people who lived in the house before, I was told, were Mormons as well. The shed. There were strange symbols chalked in white on the shed door. There was a 5-pointed star and a ghostly spirit image with chalked red eyes that looked straight into your soul. One day I was looking around in the shed when I found these jam jars with white powder inside of them. There must have been 15 to 20 of them hidden away with all of the other clutter in the bottom right-hand corner. The jars seemed to be sealed with something, candle wax perhaps. I started to open one of the jars, and at that point I felt a strong, creepy presence right behind me. So I got out of there and never touched the jars again. I've become aware from my research that those were spell jars. Demons on my landing. One time I was dreaming, flying around outside of my house at this point. I must have been around 14-ish. Must have been 5:30, 6 in the morning. It was light outside. I had dreams like this before, especially when I was younger. I think they're called psychic dreams when you're fully conscious and aware of your surroundings. Anyway, I started to fly inside my house and up the staircase until I was halfway up the stairs. I noticed strange-looking beings hovering on the landing next to the bedrooms. There was at least 3 of them, from what I can remember, and they were levitating a couple of inches off the carpet. But they were about 3 feet tall, and the closest thing I can say they looked like was the little blue doctors from the film Communion. They had their eyes closed and they were making some kind of weird sound like but stranger, as if they were meditating. I wanted to take in as much info as possible, but didn't want them to open their eyes and look at me. I managed to fly back into my body and woke up straight away in shock, jointing my torso forward out of bed. I didn't check the landing until about an hour and a half later. I just lied there. There was nothing on the landing when I checked it. My family was still asleep. trapped in my bedroom in the middle of the night. I woke up one night. I must have been 16 years old and probably 3 in the morning. There was a strange red light in my bedroom. It lit up about 1/3 of my room. I didn't know what to do. I was worried there may be something in the room with me. I couldn't see anything. I was scared, and I do remember making a run for the bedroom door. I got to where my bedroom door handle should have been, but there was no door handle, no door, just a wall, not a light switch from what I can remember either. So I went back over to my bed. I couldn't sleep. I remember getting back up to look at my bedroom window, but there was a massive glare coming back. I couldn't make anything out. In the end, I just threw the sheets over my head, and it took ages, but I fell asleep. Fairy rings at the back of our house. One autumn evening, about 1987, I remember having thought form, where is my dog? I used to worry a lot about my dog. I was alone in the house again, so I started to look for him. Couldn't find it anywhere, so I thought she must be outside. At the back of our garden, there was mushrooms growing in a circle. I was outside halfway down in the garden. It was pitch black. There was just fields, no streetlights. I was just back a little from the kitchen. I could make out this tall shadow figure dancing in a crazy way inside a mushroom ring. I decided not to walk any further. I watched him for a short time, maybe a minute or so. I went back inside and I found my dog. I think shadow figures wanted to take me. Today's final experience on the paranormal side. So I usually wake up routinely around 3, maybe 4 in the morning every day. I sleep on top of a loft. It was maybe a week ago. I looked into the darkness of my room and I saw what seemed to be a very, very tall, skinny shadow. I probably stared at it for a couple seconds before I turned around and got under my blankets. I know I was fully awake. I was fully aware of my surroundings. I usually look into the dark at least once a night just to make sure nothing's watching me. So ever since this happened, I have been fully avoiding looking into the dark when I wake up in the middle of the night. Anyway, on Christmas Day at around 4 in the morning, I had a nightmare that I was sleeping with my back facing the darkness of my room, and a demon was tapping on my back with pointed fingers. I did not know that this was a dream. It was hyper-realistic. I usually am always aware that I'm dreaming when I dream. I guess they're usually lucid, but this one wasn't. I woke up from this dream. Was a little scared too, but I was still tired. I fell back to sleep. Then I had another dream that I was still lying there in the same position. This time, the demon was singing a song, and I was singing along with it. I called out to my dad, who has since passed, and then my dog flew into my bed and jumped on me. She had red eyes. I woke up startled because the dog thing was really out of nowhere. I lie there not sure what to do. I turned on my flashlight so I could browse my phone without seeing any shadow people. I am now realizing that all of this happened after I saged my house. I did not have any windows open, as I said. My room has had plenty of crystals in it, but the shadow was not near them. Yeah, I know, maybe I should sage again, but do it with more effort? Oh, also my house used to belong to nuns from the church across the street. There was a family of them living in this house. We always had good experiences with spirits protecting children in this house, and nothing scary has really happened to me besides this.
Well, there you have it, folks. This middle of the night or early morning bonus. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that keeps the channel growing and going, and what gives people a place and a chance to share their experiences and theories judgment-free. Guys, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, our pets, our family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there, and they are definitely dangerous. Share this information with the people you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions. Never stop searching for the truth. God bless.